Welcome to But Jesus Drank Wine.
And other stories that kept us stuck. I'm Mead.
And I'm Christy.
In this podcast, we'll explore the stories that kept us, stuck, wanting to drink and not wanting to drink all at the same time.
Join us as we show you that freedom from alcohol does not have to mean a life sentence of misery and missing out.
But actually means living an authentic life full of peace, joy, and purpose.
We are so honored and we're so blessed and we're so excited to have our friend Sam in the pod studio today. Sam is amazing. She was one of my very first clients, and I'll never forget our discovery call, babe. And I just remember so much of what you said, like landing and hitting home, and it felt like you were inside my head. We're saying about being a young mom and all of these things. And so I'm just so happy to have you here today and tell your story. Sam lives in the suburbs of Philadelphia. She has a 3-year-old daughter and an 8-month-old little boy who is, they're both cute, but I remember when you were pregnant with him. Anyway, so she's got 2 little kiddos and she works in the beverage kind of marketing and business development like areas. And she held a job for a long time in a big alcohol brand. So we're going to hear from her on her story and how she broke free and found freedom from alcohol. But then what we really want to talk about as well is, because it's October, it's actually one of the last days of October when this airs, but we're slipping it under the gun here for October Breast Cancer Awareness and what you experienced working in the big alcohol industry with pinkwashing and all of that stuff of big alcohol, trying to bait and switch us to believe that they are supporting a disease that alcohol causes, which is nuts. So without further ado, welcome again.
I'm trying so hard to keep my mouth shut, Christy, on that,
Why?
This topic of the pink washing, but we will get to that in time. First, I'm excited to hear Sam and get to know Sam's story.
Yeah,
Thanks,
tell
ladies.
us how it all started and how you got to get on the phone with me.
Yeah, of course. I didn't really drink much in high school. I was super involved in like a youth group. So I was hanging out with my friends and going to church and doing youth group stuff. I drank once and just didn't really care for it. And then that all sort of changed when I went to college. I went to a Big 10 party school. And from my first day there, it was sort of heavy drinking. It was football games and every weekend and party. I think it was sort of because I didn't experiment at all in high school. When I got there, it was all very new to me. I was sort of trying to find where I fit in and meet new friends. And I sort of just fell into this group of really, really heavy drinkers. It continued throughout college. I actually had some trouble a couple of different semesters due to alcohol related issues. But then towards my junior and senior year, I kind of found a degree that I liked and started going to class. And I was still drinking and partying, but school actually sort of took a priority there. And I finished and didn't really think there was any issue because, hey, I graduated. I was getting good grades. I got a job, et cetera, et cetera. Upon graduation, I started a career, still drinking. And then, the next couple of years went by. I met my husband who drank when I met him, but not that heavily. And then he met me and started drinking a little bit more. I was sort of the one that was always let's go out, let's do this. Yeah, years and years go by. I think I went through periods during that time where I knew that it was always an uncomfortable feeling. I'd go months and months, but then one Sunday morning I'd wake up and just be what am I doing? What is this? But then months and months would go by and I wouldn't have it again. But then the last couple years of my time in the drinking cycle, it was more often. It was almost every day that I had that uncomfortable feeling. And then I got pregnant with my daughter. That was in 2019. So I stopped drinking. I remember thinking this is so easy, I must not have a problem because I'm pregnant now and I have no issues, being sober. Then I had my daughter in May of 2020. So 2 years into the pandemic. So March of 2020 is when the world went into lockdown. I was 7 months pregnant. So then when I had her, I was sort of alone. I couldn't have anybody come over. My mom didn't want to come over. I was really scared. I think I fell into that habit that we all do of like doom scrolling. So I was just sitting at home with this new little baby reading about all the horrible things that were happening in the world. And I was just so scared. Yeah. And I just like didn't feel any connection, or I just felt really alone. I could cry just thinking about it. But looking back, I have a picture on my phone, and the date is my daughter's 9 days old. And it's me hooked up to my breast pump with a beer. So that's sort of like when I started, I know, like telling two different stories, but when I finally, started coaching with Christy, I kind of like looked back on my timeline. That's when it started to feel really uncomfortable. So I ended up drinking a couple more months with my daughter, but it started to get to the point that I just was like, my old life and my new life just don't fit together anymore. But for the first year of her life, I was definitely drinking because I didn't know what else to do for like me time and mom time. And I was at home with her and I was working, and then I would get home and I would be like, what am I going to do for myself? Well, I'm obviously going to drink a bottle of red wine and while I fold the laundry, because that's how I treat myself. That was sort of one of my big, that was one of my big ones that we had to get rid of, but that was one of my big things. And then I still don't know how I came across Christy. I think one day I was sort of Instagram scrolling and I got connected. And so then, we met. I feel like I just jumped ahead because I skipped the part about my career there for a little bit. But so I worked in the restaurant industry out of college for 6 years and then got a job in wine and spirit sales. So I worked for a big supplier that's based in France. I worked for 3 years in sales and marketing in the state of Pennsylvania. I'm going to try and keep brand names out of it, I guess. But it was my job. I would sell my product to a set number of clients. I would help come up with different campaigns and different programs to push as much alcohol on patrons of my clients as possible. At first, this was the coolest job ever. I remember calling friends and family and being like, you'll never guess what I get paid to do. I am going to sell tequila and vodka and wine and champagne, and it is going to be so much fun. This is like my dream job. I remember saying that, like, I can't believe I got this job. Like, I was so excited. But then, a couple months in, I sort of saw this world that I wasn't used to, which was like heavy, heavy, heavy binge drinking. It was in every meeting. We would have meetings at 8:00 in the morning, and it would be like, okay, guys, we have a new scotch rolling out into the market. Let's all drink it. And it was like, oh my gosh, I don't ever want to drink scotch at all. That wasn't one of my drinks of choice, let alone at 8:00 in the morning.
Babe. I know. I'm sorry. My face is saying it all. I'm like, wait,
the eyeballs are coming out of her head, guys.
So I think that's another time when I just, I was really into it, but there was even parts then I was like, this is just too much for me. But that's so when I ended up coaching with Christy and we were chit-chatting about that job, that's when it sort of came up, just the different campaigns. I don't remember. I know it came up at some point, the pink washing and the breast cancer and all that kind of stuff, but that's how it kind of came up when we talked about it. My grandmother is a breast cancer survivor and 2 of my aunts are breast cancer survivors. And I'll never forget, it was like, so after 3 years in the sales team, I sort of just had that uncomfortable feeling that like, this isn't for me. This isn't what I should be doing. So I started interviewing around, and one of the last campaigns that sort of came out that I worked on was for October Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and they wanted to push a new grapefruit vodka in pink drinks with the breast cancer ribbon. So, we would get different accounts to promote this. And one of the accounts, I will say this wasn't something that, the company promoted, but one of the accounts came up with it on their own, was if you brought a copy of your appointment card or some type of proof that you had just gotten your mammogram, they would give you a free drink. And I just remember thinking like, this isn't for me. This isn't where I want to be.
But did you even know the connection then? Because the majority of people don't know that this is it's directly linked. Did you know at that point?
I did, just because I had 3 survivors in my family. So I think I had probably done a little more research than the average person. But you want to know what's crazy? I knew that it was causing it, and I knew that not only do I have 3 females on my mom's side of the family, and I knew that breast cancer was linked to alcohol, and I still drank. Like, never once did I think, like, I should think about myself right now and maybe not do this, which is pretty crazy. But until then, that's when I got that, like, really icky feeling, like, who do I work for? What am I doing for a living? Is this really... Yeah, it was just a really icky feeling. It's the greatest way I can describe it. So that was sort of on my way out. I ended up moving on to a different career just a couple weeks later. But yeah, that was just shocking. And then, I mean, you can look online. I did a couple Google searches, before we hopped on, and you'll see different promotions for different wine brands, different beer, it's everywhere, all the pink washing. And they say, $1 from every... It's funny, if you actually look, I found a statistic that if you actually look at what the brands are donating, it's like minimal.
I'm sure.
One of the large, there's like a large brand, I think it's like White Zinfandel. It's $1 for every like 250 cases they sell. They donate $1.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so they never say that.
Shady.
I can't right now.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then another one I saw, the total, that's what they say too. It's like $1 for every bottle up to 5,000. So $5,000 in the grand scheme of things is nothing at all.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
My gosh.
So just in case any listeners don't know this stat, and there's a lot, we tried to figure out like what the actual stat is, you guys, and there's so many out there. And there has now been hundreds of studies on this, like basically showing that there is a direct link. But I'm just going to pull the one that I have here from the UK, from Cancer Research UK, which says around 1 in 10 breast cancer cases are caused by drinking alcohol. That's around 4,400 cases a year. The risk of breast cancer is increased even if you drink at low levels. And listen, Mead and I hate doing this like we hate the scary stuff. Like, we don't want to tell you like stop drinking because you're going to get breast cancer. That's not what we're here to say.
We're not here to tell you to stop drinking either. Yeah. Like,
right.
I mean,
right. Yes, obviously. But go do your research and look at this stuff, because there is evidence to support that we're not making this up.
Yeah, I think too, the awareness of it is something that is, though, like, Sam, I feel for you. And you're like, I mean, I knew there was a risk, and I have these 3 survivors in my family, and I still was drinking. And I'm like, well, yeah, of course. Because like, I mean, I think of like myself in college. I knew that cigarette smoking was directly linked to lung cancer. Did that stop me from being a social smoker in my silly early adult years?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. But I also, so like I can, totally empathize with that. But also, it's just, for me, it's like all you have to do is kind of think a little bit about it to think that there could possibly be some kind of health disadvantage, if you will, for consuming that. I mean, think about like as moms, the way I know like I'm crazy about sunscreen and the ingredients that go, like that I'm using, and it can't have this ingredient and can't have this chemical and this and that for my kids. But alcohol is one of those things that, I mean, I buy organic this or, but alcohol is one of those things that just gets a pass. And so to your point, Christy, that we're not trying to scare anybody to quit drinking. We don't care what you do. Like, I mean, we want you to be healthy, right? We love you. We want you to be healthy, but we want to bring awareness to where there is evidence, research supporting this link. In case you're asking that question, or in case you are paying attention to all those things, I don't want you to feel duped. I felt duped by big alcohol. I mean, a lot of it was my responsibility. I missed that. But I also felt super duped and taken advantage of. And that's where, I would hate for somebody else to go years and years and go, wait, I didn't know. So yeah, do your own research, but yeah.
I've actually asked my my Mimi, that's my grandma, she survived breast cancer in the 90s. So she's been involved with like the Susan G Komen Foundation since then and does a lot of volunteer work. And when I started this sobriety journey, I didn't like have a full conversation with Mimi about it, but I mentioned that I stopped drinking. She was like, okay, honey, good for you, whatever. So she's never been a drinker ever in her whole life. So I asked her one day, I said, do they talk a lot about the links between alcohol and breast cancer? And she had no idea. Mm-hmm. So this is someone who has survived breast cancer, is involved in an organization, that raises money, and they're still not talking about it either. So it's just crazy that, duped is true. And I still, it's shocking that, like, imagine if a pack of cigarettes had a label on it that said $1 from this pack will go toward lung cancer research.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the ad that I saw on the airplane recently that we mentioned on another episode. I mean,
on the headrest.
On the headrest, the little glass of rosé and the pink can. And your support makes a difference. Your support makes a difference when you purchase an item on today's flight, which, by the way, the only thing that they charge for on a flight is alcohol. Notice that they don't say, I mean, it's interesting. It's very like, I analyzed it, went back and analyzed it, but a portion from, your purchase today will be donated to breast cancer research. What if we had, instead of that can of rosé in that picture, what if it was a pack of cigarettes? And it was, instead of breast cancer research, lung cancer research. Yeah. Like, I mean, think about that's insanity. But that's why this is so important to talk about, not to scare people, but to like bring attention to this.
Yeah. And the way that it works, right, is because alcohol, when it's metabolized in our bodies, breaks down into, I'm not going to ever say this word right, so don't make fun of me, acetaldehyde.
Acetaldehyde. I got you, girl.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. That is highly toxic, and that is the class 1 carcinogen, right? So that's sitting in your body. So you've got that going on, which is why it's not just linked to breast cancer, right? It's linked to 7 different types of cancers. But also with the breast cancer side of it, it's because of how it interplays with estrogen.
You're exactly right. It's the hormonal part, and with the breast cancer link, and then also the acetaldehyde, which is more toxic than the substance of alcohol itself. And that, when I learned that, I was like, that blows my mind. And then it's the, the carcinogenic contaminants that are used as part of the fermentation and production process, the asbestos and the phenols and the hydrocarbons and the nitrous, other words I can't say too. But I mean, it's all of that combined. It's just like, not only does alcohol not give me any benefit, like not do anything for me, it literally is shutting off, like it's cutting my life short. I mean, in some way, shape, or form, it is.
Yeah. And so many people don't know.
Yeah, I think it's the majority, right? The majority of women don't know. At some point, like, have you experienced rage over this? Have you gotten like fired up and been like, I don't know, because this stuff really fires me up.
It does. I think I feel a little shame that I was a part of it for so long. So I'm trying to work my way out of that as well. And it makes me really sad. My mom, so both of her sisters and her mom all are survivors. So I know for a while, she just feels like she's like a ticking time bomb. Like, is it going to happen to her as well? But she's still drinking. So that's her choice. It is what it is. It just makes me kind of sad more than angry actually at this point in my life. But I don't want to be like Christy at the barbecue. So yeah, my girlfriends sort of know. I was telling one girlfriend what I was doing today, and she had no idea either. So it comes up in casual conversation, and I throw it out there when I can, but I haven't started standing on street corners yet with signs.
No, I don't think you should do that. I'm just wondering, you had the rage at like when you made the connection. Because like when I made the connection, I was just like, gosh, we have just been lied to. Yeah. Lied to. And it's not even just with the pink washing, right? It's just that like all the things that we've said 3,000 times already on this podcast and beyond is that we're just, oh my gosh, you guys. Okay, so this just came to me. Carter was watching something on YouTube about Legos the other day. And the YouTuber, who's like some like YouTuber that all like, little boys are watching build Legos, starts putting together a Captain Morgan's Lego set and then says, for your dads, this is a good one for your dads. to remind them, like, I'm paraphrasing, but like, to take a break mid-build or something like that. And I literally, I slammed my computer down and I was like, Carter. And he's like, oh, Mom, I know. And I'm like, but do you see it? Like, this guy is telling you that Daddy should have a drink to play Legos with you.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
I can't.
Sorry. Yelling.
Is it just today? Do you notice? I notice now too, in how many like Disney movies there's alcohol, just like in all the different scenes in front of the kids. Like,
really?
I see that. Oh, it's just everywhere. You would never notice it. But
yeah.
Anytime there's like a scene of like family dinner or just like an adult, like there's so much alcohol being used in Disney movies and like little kid Disney movies, Pixar movies. It's crazy. I see it everywhere now.
Oh my gosh. I think it's because we're out of that phase with our kids that we don't see that, but that's wild.
Yeah, I see it a lot.
That just blows my mind. And yet I'm like, see, this is the difference though, Sam. Like you unknowingly, like you participated, so to speak, but unknowingly, like there are people out there that are knowingly doing this. And that's where it's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, it was actually so like if you look at the calendar of, marketing campaigns, it's like May is Cinco de Mayo. We're going to push tequila, June and July is coconut rum, whatever. October was, pumpkin spice and pink breast cancer awareness cocktails.
Can I ask a practical question about your time in that industry? How did you get work done? If you're drinking scotch at 8 a.m.
Yeah. So those days, that wasn't like every single day, but you just sort of had to, I think it was tough because exactly.
Was everybody napping by noon in their offices or what? Like,
I think a lot of people started their day around, 4 or 5 and worked into the evening. I was usually one that worked during the day. And it wasn't every morning that you would be doing that, but but when we had those meetings, it would be like, well, my thing too is like, we all have to drive home.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So that was another huge thing.
I'm thinking about like when you're hungover and you want to call in sick, is there a lot of grace for that because everybody's drinking, or is like everybody's just a professional at that point and it's like everybody's just
I remember like someone very high up the corporate ladder, we had like a nationwide sales meeting and he got up in front of 400 or 500 people at this conference room in a big hotel in a big city and got a like airplane bottle of coffee liqueur, dumped it in his coffee in front of the whole company. And we all said like, cheers. And we all did it at 8:30 in the morning.
Wow. Well, and that's not unlike when I was in pharmaceutical sales, it's not unlike the big companies I worked for and the national sales meetings we went to. And so I'm thinking about like as an everyday thing, that would be so hard. But I mean, for sure, I used to be like, gosh, they are so generous giving us all of this free alcohol. And it was just, and it was like, in these long sales meetings all day long, 12 hours sitting. And then they had these extravagant parties at night. And then you would like party well into the evening, especially in certain big cities where you just keep going. And then you're going to bed maybe at like 4 a.m. and then getting up at 6, 2 hours later to go start your day of meetings. And I always kind of like thought like, are they testing us? And I used to like wear my badge of honor, like, I can hang because I can survive on 2 hours of sleep. And maybe I'm still really buzzed from the night before and I'm going to roll into this meeting and I'm going to still do my thing. And so, but I could only do that for a week and then I would come home and I would be laid out for weeks from that. But to have that kind of culture, in your office every day, that would be
I think
intense.
When I look back just on my journey and reflecting over it, I think that job sort of got me to the point though that I don't know if I would have stopped when I did without this, because it sort of opened up the like dirty truth to me sort of about what alcohol could look like and like kind of showed me the ugly side. So kind of a blessing in disguise. I think when you're forced to do it, it sort of loses its fun in a way.
Yeah.
Like I would come home from some of these national sales meetings or like a week of like a champagne blitz where you have to go sell as much champagne as you can. And then I'd be like, I never want to drink champagne ever again because I've just been forced to drink it for so many days in a row. So again, that was just like another step in my journey that was a crazy one, but I'm sort of thankful it happened because I think it brought me to getting sober quicker.
Yeah. Have you guys watched Painkiller on, is it Netflix? I don't know. It's the one about the Oxycontin, codon, whatever, however you want to say it. Like, the rise and fall of the Sackler family and all of that horrible, horrible, horrible stuff. And one of the points of view of the show is one of the sales reps, who is slowly figuring out like what actually is happening and what they're doing and that they're killing people and all of this stuff. And I got done with that series and I was just like, when is this Netflix series going to do this for alcohol? Like, when is it happening? And it's going to happen at some point. I don't know if it's going to be in our lifetime because they've got so much money and so much power and so much. I mean, hello, they don't even have to have any sort of warning labels, right? Or even ingredients on the bottles. So it's going to probably in a while, but it's the same thing,
I think eventually, but again, when it'll just be like cigarettes. Like I'm starting to see that younger generations are like, ugh.
Yeah.
I mean, even our generation, I don't really know many people that smoke anymore.
Yeah.
So I think eventually it'll sort of be the same thing. Is it true, Christy, though, that over in Ireland now, have you seen that at all? Like they're supposed to be putting warning labels on bottles, I saw.
Yeah. It's supposed to all, I think, from what I remember, be next year that they're finally getting them on there, but they've been lobbying and lobbying and lobbying. And the problem is that, the EU is fighting so hard because obviously we have France and Italy, biggest exporters of wine, etc. So I know they've been paddling for it, but I'm really proud of like that little green island, like that's so important.
I know Canada was taking an initiative at some point to do the same and then maybe 2017 or 2018 and then was, they were shot down.
But they just came out and said, right, no alcohol is safe. Like what's the country's like recommended drinking? And they said none, which was actually huge and made so many headlines several months ago because nobody else is saying that, right? People are saying, oh, I mean, in the overheating that it's stupid, 14 units, whatever that means a week, But yeah, Canada's actually come out and said, oh, you want to be healthy? Like you want to drink for your health? Then don't drink.
Can I go back to a part in your story, Sam? Because I just like on behalf of like moms, I don't know. I just feel this like, you have a 3-month-old baby and you're in the middle of like you're alone. It's hard enough when you have a new baby. And then I'm so sorry. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm so sorry that you had that experience the way you did, because of course it allowed alcohol to take up space in your life in a different way. Of course it did. And of course, I mean, all of it, it's like your whole story. It's like, of course it did. And so, yeah.
It was awful.
So hard.
My daughter just started preschool this year and we did muffins with mom a couple weeks ago where we got to go in and have muffins that they made for us. And it was kind of cool because before it started, me and 9 other moms were standing in like the gymnasium and I looked around and I was like, these are all women that had their children at the same time as me. So like it's a group of like women that all went through what I went through. And it was kind of neat. I did make one little comment just like, because all the kids were doing so great and they're all playing together. And I remember thinking, in the early pandemic, like my daughter's not seeing anybody, like, is she going to be weird? So I made a little comment like, remember in the pandemic when we were all worried about how our kids would turn around and they all were like, oh my gosh, yes. So it's kind of great that I'm like meeting those other moms now and have that community of people who went through the same thing.
I've just got like full chills with that because, oh my gosh. And I mean, I don't know exactly your faith story, but like, I just kind of see the Lord working in that, perhaps like weaving that together for you and making something that was just messy and just turning it into something beautiful and like having a posse of people who can relate and can understand. So maybe you didn't have that when she was born, but now, wow,
yeah,
so beautiful. I also, can I just comment too, that I love that you mentioned in your story a couple of times that like that just like inner, just I would call like a niggling, that little just niggling that was there that just, this isn't right. Like, I don't know. Whatever we want to call it, intuition, whatever. And I think about for how long in my journey I maybe had that and for how long I completely ignored it and avoided it and how long it took me to actually then be like, oh, wait, yeah, maybe alcohol is the thing. You're paying attention to that and, all of it together. I love that it brought you to a place where you found freedom from alcohol and your babies are still so young. Like,
Yeah.
they're never gonna like grow up with you, like they're not gonna know that. They get you fully as you, free from alcohol. And I just think what an incredible blessing that is. And kudos to you, because I think that it is really hard with the young babies to see all that you saw and had the courage to handle. Yeah. I like that we don't see a lot of people in this stage.
Yeah. So it's funny you say that the niggling or the little voice. I mentioned that I didn't drink in high school because I was like really involved in youth group. I didn't grow up in a religious household. I met a group of friends when I was 15 that, were going to youth group, and I just fell in love with it. I actually was baptized when I was 18 by my choice. So that's when I like started a relationship with God. And then unfortunately, I sort of lost that for many years when I was in the drinking cycle. But now that I'm out of it and I can reflect, that's what that uncomfortable feeling was all those years. That was like my anchor. That's what I can reflect on it more now. And that's why that happened the way it did. If I hadn't started that journey when I was in high school, I wouldn't have had that throughout the years, that I was in the drinking cycle. And that's what that uncomfortable feeling was all those years, just wanting me back and wanting me to stop doing, living that life that I was living. So took a while, but I'm glad it happened that way.
I'm so, I mean, God pursuing you and all of that. And oh my gosh, that is beautiful.
What do you think are some of your like top unexpected benefits / realizations now that you're on the other side of all that?
Oh my gosh. Well, sleep is one I'd like to say, but I just have young kids. So I feel like we always talk about sleep. I did experience, sleep, I think, for a little bit, but then I have a 3-year-old and an 8-month-old, so I don't sleep anyway.
Think about how much worse it would be if you were drinking.
It would be so much worse. I just I'm clear-headed. Mornings are just my favorite time of day. If I can force myself to get out of bed at like 5 before they're awake, I get a little bit of peaceful time in the morning. My relationship with my husband's so much better. Even when I'm, having a tough day with work or life, I just still feel pride. Like that's something that'll never go away. So even when you're having a really tough day, you still have that pride that, and then like you said, I am happy that it happened, early in my children's lives. Like my daughter was 1 when I stopped, and it was before my son was even born. So they'll never even know that. And hopefully they'll grow up. We talk about future generations, maybe knowing more about the effects, and hopefully that they'll see that their mom doesn't drink. So
that's huge, because it's like that Pastor Robbie, Christy, remember the sermon that came to us that we saw that said, what you do in your home, our kids amplify outside of the home, or enhance outside of them, whatever it was, magnify. And so your kids growing up with you as being a mom that as a non-drinker, that's just so beautiful. It's so cool to think about. Yeah.
I also love what you said about the pride thing. I feel like I often describe it as confidence. And it's true. Like, even if you have a really bad day, you're doing a lot better than we did when we were drinking every single night. And it's just so true. And it does something incredible to your pride and then something incredible to your self-confidence, because then you also get to figure out like what Sam wants and what, how you want to spend your time. And one of my favorite homework assignments I ever gave to you, right, was go find some hobbies. I didn't say it like that to her, you guys. I said it nice. But we were like talking, and she was,
go find some hobbies.
That's me. No, I didn't. But
well, that's true. When you start drinking when you're 18 years old, you're becoming an adult with alcohol in your life. So now when it gets removed, you're like, wait, what do I like to do?
I have to go back to pre-15 years old.
I started doing ceramics again.
Yes, girl.
Love it.
Yeah, like pottery.
I love it.
Beautiful.
It was pretty funny.
Love it. It's so good.
There's so many gifts. And Christy, you said too, to punctuate that, because I think this is often a thought I have too, that pride or that confidence that we have in where we are. And like, I'm like, I can't believe that this is my life and I never have to drink again. Like, there is just a feeling of relief. All the feelings, all the good ones, but also even when things are hard and now it's like, okay, there's something emotional going on and I'm actually going to like sit in this emotion and I'm going to have to feel this in a way where it was very easy to just hit my little wine easy button and, kick the can down the road and not have to deal with this, which meant, by the way, just push it down until it became, till the Instapot hit the max pressure point and it exploded, usually on my husband. But like, even in the hard things, it's like, I get to experience all the ups and downs of just being a human. And it's, even when it's hard, it's so much better than before. So much better. And there is a confidence and a pride that comes with that, because it's like, wow, like I'm actually doing this in a way that is healthy for me. It's better for me. And by the way, it is absolutely 100% better for everybody that I love. So what could be better?
Totally.
Sam, what would you tell a mom of tiny little babies, little kids, if they were having that like niggling feeling?
There's better methods of self-care. Find them. I mean, like now I'll just like read for 15 minutes, or I'll just be like, hey, I'm going to go stand in the shower for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Like do a face mask or something like that. And I think if you have that feeling, like it's because deep down that this isn't really for you. And just taking that first step, I was so scared to do it, but it's the greatest thing I've ever done. And you may not sleep with little kids, but it's still totally worth it.
Yeah. Celebrate your noticing that niggling, because what a gift. Yeah. And I mean, I think about too, that's like, God wired us to pay attention to the signals in our bodies to clue us into, what is right and best. And so, yeah, like if you're starting to that mom that you're talking to who maybe has that, celebrate that you're noticing that, as opposed to like, oh gosh, because I know for me, it was like, oh crap, I don't want to look at that. But instead, if we turn to that celebration, there's something here. This is good.
Yeah. And wine isn't, it's not what they say with the treat yourself. You need a glass of wine. Like you're not treating yourself at all. It's making it so much worse and so much harder.
Yeah.
Much harder. Who knew?
Yeah, I know.
Who knew?
We know now, but who knew?
For your tiny Tina, but I feel like what you just said is so beautiful about just like, if you got the niggling feeling, just honor
pay attention
it,
to it.
Pay attention to it. Yeah. Oh, Sam, I love you so much, girlfriend. I
love you too.
So happy that you're just doing so well. So
Thanks
blessed to know you.
Ladies.
Of course.
Thank you for sharing your story. And we always talk about how just being able to honor and receive other people's stories in hopes that, someone out there can hear themselves or something in it and go, okay, like I'm not alone in this. So what I also see is that like, though you were alone as a new mom with the perfect storm that was, then now this like beautiful full circle where you're sharing your story. And I think about how that creates that feeling of a mom out there who's feeling alone in this struggle and the over drinking cycle. And now she's like, oh my gosh, that is me. Like I hear myself in Sam's story and I can do this too. You've just created hope for her. So thank you.
All right, ladies. See you next Monday.
See you later.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much for joining us again this week. You can find all of our episodes at butjesusdrankwine.com. And make sure you follow us over on the gram at Love Life Sober with Christy and Mead at I'm Not Sober, I'm Free. To learn more about what we do, you can visit our websites at meadhollandshirley.com and lovelifesober.com. Take a screenshot of this podcast and share it with a friend or two. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't have to worry about missing a single episode. And if you love what we're doing, please leave us a review on Apple or Spotify. This helps more women who are feeling stuck and alone in the overdrinking cycle to find hope and encouragement. Thanks, ladies. We so appreciate you. We'll see you next week. Bye. Bye.